The desire of all my high school bullies turning around and admitting they've been madly in love with me all along. Sigh. A girl can dream. Hey Deviant, welcome to Rationally Insane, the podcast where we pretend to be normal, overshare way too much, and talk about the ridiculousness of the book world. I'm Rachel D. Oak, self-published author, semi-professional ranter, and your slightly delusional internet friend. Today we're diving into one of the most problematic book tropes out there, bully romance. Let's get into it. I've often discussed on my Substack book tropes, and I've actually just finished a YouTube video talking about what liking specific book tropes says about you. And as someone who really enjoys dark romance, I've dabbled in some problematic book tropes. In fact, I think out of all the books I read this year, 99% of them have tropes that would be ethically, morally questionable. Not just morally questionable characters, it's like the entire scenario is just wrong. Like somebody needs to go to jail over this. And I'm the idiot who sits back and reads it all with a smile on. So as you can imagine, this gives me a pretty extensive repertoire to talk about problematic book tropes. Because some of the stuff out there, y'all, can we go outside and touch some grass? It's getting a bit much. Now, let's talk about why I think bully romance works. A secret formula, if you will. Number one, I think if you're the kind of person who enjoys dark romance the same way I do, and just enjoys a sort of bad boy, good girl kind of scenario, you're often somebody who's been reading for a really long time. And not to dive too much into stereotypes, but the vast majority of us did spend our teen years inside reading. Probably not with a lot of friends, probably not with a lot of people lusting after us, if you will. There was definitely some level of teasing in there involved and just feeling a little bit like outcasts. And the bully romance kind of trope, or even the morally grey trope, fits into that dynamic quite well, whether we like to admit it or not. The idea that the people who did us wrong could somehow, inside of them, be fighting some sort of feeling that they did not, genuinely hate us, feels kinda nice. And the other level of why it works, and I think why people enjoy it, is that sort of, pull my hair because you love me paradox, right? It's the thing that we've been taught since we were very young, and that specifically girls have been taught, is if a guy treats you wrong, or if girls tease you because they're jealous of you. Boys tease you because they're deep down they don't know what to do with all these newfound emotions. Obviously, that's deloadable, but we are a product of our environment. Whether we like it or not, the decisions we make and the tropes we like, our taste is very much developed in our formative years. So if in our formative years we are being taught all of these things, we are being taught that boy pulls your hair because he loves you, people are mean to you because deep down they like you, or they want to emulate you, they want to be around you, then that sort of dynamic is going to translate into the things that we read. It's going to be like we're playing out these fictional scenarios in our heads, and being able to read about them makes us feel a little bit better. It makes us feel like, oh yes, it is true, see, it happens in this book as well. Whether or not that's a fact, it is helpful for us to be able to dissect what's happening in the world around us, especially if we're not liked and especially if we're being seen as outcasts. And before you think, no, I'm taking this way too deep, think about it. The vast majority of bully romance tropes do happen in a school setting. And I do think that happens for a reason. Right? There's a reason that authors are putting a bully romance in a school setting, and there's a reason why we, as individuals, are reading and enjoying and seeking out those books. Because whether we like it or not, it's sort of a retelling of what's happening to us in a more positive light, in a way that we know for a fact is going to end in a happy ending, and a happy ending for us. And I'm not saying that you're in love with your bullies, or that your bullies were even people that you could fall in love with. Because I'm gonna be honest, the people that were mean to me when I was growing up, I don't want a single thing to do with them. Would not touch them with a 10-foot pole. But having the subversion of it, of being no, you're making fun of me because you actually like me, and you're the idiot who can't process your feelings, it is very comforting, isn't it? And while we're talking about the fact that these things happen in a school setting, and we are talking about the fact that we are a product of our environment, I also think that society really plays a part on why specifically us sort of quiet nerdy girls really enjoy this sort of bully romance. Growing up, being quiet and being studious and being a good student meant that you were probably set next to the rowdy boys, and you were probably told, oh, you're going to sit next to them because you're going to cool them down and you're going to make them pay attention because you're never distracted. And obviously, I freaking hate that, because it's oh yeah, the reward for you being a good student is now you're in charge of other people's behaviors. And your education does not take priority over the behavior of men. And that is just such a terrible precedent that girls are being taught from such a young age. And I remember being in school and being sat next to the rowdy boys, and I hated it for so many reasons. Number one, obviously, because they took it as a challenge. When you weren't responding, when you weren't like engaging in conversation, they made it their mission to be able to sort of crack you and break you and be like, oh yeah, I managed to make the girl that never speaks get in trouble with the teacher for speaking. The second reason why I didn't like it is because often when they took it as a challenge, they took it in a really horrible way. I remember being sat in class, having a boy behind me whisper really horrible things in my ear to trying to get me to snap, and I ended up just sitting up in the middle of class and just having a meltdown because this guy was calling my mother names, really horrible, nasty names that I can't even say out loud in this podcast because he couldn't even bleep it out. It's how bad that was. And he laughed when I finally broke down and got up and said, teacher, this guy just keeps saying blah, 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 blah. And he started laughing because he liked that I was saying bad names out loud, and he liked that he had cracked me somehow. And for obvious reasons, now I'm disrupting class. My learning experience is completely upheavaled because this guy thinks that this is super funny because he doesn't enjoy classes, does not care about his grades, does not care about his future the way that I do, or the way that I did. And I'm the one who's getting the brunt of it. I'm the one who has everybody around the class staring at them like I'm crazy for saying these things out loud. And to layer onto that as well, in terms of us being a product of our environment and in terms of all these things happening in our youth, you have these like secretly enough assumptions. When you were sat next to these boys, if you gave them just a smidge of attention, suddenly all the popular girls and all the popular kids are turning around to you and saying, oh, like you're paying attention to them because you're secretly in love with them, and look at her blush and blah, 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 blah. And they all make like little jokes. Like it's so funny that you could possibly have feelings for another person that's so entirely out of your league. Even if you didn't have feelings for them, even if you were just genuinely trying to concentrate on your lesson and you were just telling them to. Can you tell that I still have like a lot of pent-up anger towards these scenarios? And it gets even worse because I still see that happening to this day. I still see these girls being sat next to rowdy boys. I still see people making fun of them. I still see these like secretly in love assumptions, and I still see the other side of it as well as like teachers themselves. You next to these people, right? Knowing full well that your education is going to be the one that's going to be compromised and that you're going to feel in charge of their behavior, and if they behave badly, you didn't do a good enough job of keeping them in check. But then teachers see this and they think to themselves, oh, I'm such a matchmaker because like, look, she's speaking to the popular boy and look at me, I made the nerdy girl and the popular boy be together. Even if the nerdy girl is there like, Jesus Christ, can somebody put a muzzle on it? I cannot stand this guy. Obviously, most bully romances do not explore any of these factors, and I highly doubt any of the authors that are writing bully romances are thinking of it with the level of depth that I am. But you can't deny that this is happening. You can't deny that that does affect the things that you write in the fictional universes you escape to. So you might be thinking, well, if you hate bullies so much in real life, why would you then enjoy it in fiction? And I think it does come down to the subservience of it. Right? The shifting of how you wish things were instead of how they are. Also, with a good author, there's so many reasons why in a book the bully romance trope works. So if I had to categorize why the bully romance works, I would start by saying, you have to have stakes. You have to have a reason to be invested in these two people. And there's like a level of believability there as well. You have to understand, why would these two people that could not be more opposite from each other be in love and eventually fall in love and form that connection? And a good bully romance understands that. A good bully romance gives you character complexity and gives you enough backstory and gives you enough layers to a human being and an individual to understand that even though these two people often have very different academic desires, and I'm speaking here, in the bully romance in a school environment, there's enough overlap in their personal lives, or there's enough overlap in certain aspects of their characters that make them, and some of the best bully romances do play on that level of, trauma, of maybe something that's happening in their childhood, maybe that's something that's happening in their home life, maybe there's something in terms of their desires and their future aspirations. So bully romance really works when you have a combination of those three things, stakes, believability, and character complexity. And once you have all those three, then that fully pulls you out of the real world scenario of bullies. Then that gives you a realistic escape that you can genuinely enjoy. The best of bully romances do give you a lot of growth. The bully romance is only great when the hatred and the bullying, each other, then slowly develops into a kindredship, into we understand each other and we understand our motivations and we understand why we acted priorly the way that we act. And suddenly you can really escape into this fictional scenario. Suddenly you can really feel yourself in there. You can really imagine the people that treated you wrong to grow and to reflect, to be able to change their behavior. And that does give you a sense of inner peace. If you're looking for some kind of book recommendations for bully romance that are great, I really like the Boys of Preston Prep series. It is a dark romance by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue. I can leave the link in the description for that book. It is so good. It does it so well. You genuinely believe that these people hate each other. Because that's another thing. I love when a bully romance starts with you can genuinely feel the distaste. The girl is not stupidly in love with the boy from the get-go. Because that also doesn't make any sense. Nobody who's had people be incredibly rude to them would deep down inside be like, oh yeah, he's the worst individual on the face of the earth, but I'm still madly in love with him. No. So that's a perfect segue for me to talk about where it all falls apart. Where bully romance stops working is, number one, when these people are being mean to each other, but you can tell from the start that there's no hatred there. In the start, I need these people to hate each other. I need to believe that there's a deeper cause and a deeper motivation here for them treating each other like absolute garbage. And the other aspect is I don't want them to all just roll over the moment the other person says, sorry for the 5 years of treating you like hot garbage. No, you don't get redemption in 5 seconds when you've treated someone horribly for years. If a bully romance cannot give you the growth, if it cannot give us the genuine change and the genuine reflection of why people acted the way that they did, the motivations behind it and the understanding of it, and then the needing to change and the desire to change. If that is lacking, then bully romance just doesn't make any sense, and we're all just kind of annoyed at it. It also falls apart when it's too predictable. Obviously, when you pick up a bully romance book, you know that these people are probably going to end up together, but if it's too bland, if from the get-go you can tell that these people are already lusting after each other, then what's the point? We need complexity. We need layers to the story. We need multiple scenarios, multiple developments. We need back and forth. I'm not saying we need a third act breakup. In fact, I'd rather have a third act than getting together too soon and then breaking up. You know what I mean? That being said, even when I read so many goddamn awful bully romances, and we do keep coming back for more. I do believe the reason why is because there's something inherently addictive about reading the same trope slightly to the left. Growing up with fanfiction and Pad and AO3, I am so familiar with getting the same pairing with the same scenario in a slightly different font, in a slightly different alternate universe, and me still gobbling that up 5 ways to Sunday. So when I'm faced with a bully romance trope, or any trope that I like for that matter, I've been trained to enjoy it. I've been trained to, even when it's bad, think it's good. It's a bit like pizza. Even when it sucks, you still eat it? Not to mention, there's something deeply comforting about returning to those tropes that you enjoyed when you were younger. If you read a lot of bully romance trope when you were younger, and you really used it to escape, and you used it to form all these different sort of alternate realities in which things worked out in your favor, then you're probably going to keep seeking that comfort even as an adult. You're probably going to play and replay scenarios in your mind. It's not easy to stop liking a trope when it meant so much to you as a child. It's part of what made you. It's part of what formed your opinion. No matter how problematic the book, no matter how horrific the interactions, no matter how cringy and secondhand embarrassment and unrealistic, if you enjoyed it when you were younger, inevitably you're still going to want to read it and find comfort in it as an adult. And if anyone makes fun of you for the opinions that you have, the books that you read, the tropes that you like, problematic or unproblematic, I just think you don't need to pay attention to them at all, because ultimately these are your books. This is your form of entertainment. It's like if you were younger and your mom told you, you're reading too much. You'd be like, well, at least I'm not doing drugs, mom. As an adult, the same goes. Not the drugs part, because, you do you, sister. But the who gives other adults the right to tell you what to do or what not to do. You're not killing anyone. You're not doing anything wrong. Is the book trope problematic? Sure. Is having a guy treat you like absolute garbage only for you to forgive him and then go back to him problematic? Of course it is. It sets a horrible precedent. You should never be with someone who treats you wrong, who consistently and for multiple years treated you wrong. But that doesn't have to translate into real life. You can read about serial killers and not be a serial killer. In fact, I'd really hope you weren't. So if somebody has an issue with you reading a serial killer book, then, you can just turn around and be like, well, I'm not killing people. So is that what you'd rather I did? I'm assuming not. I sure hope not. I could go on for hours dissecting other problematic tropes like, step-sibling romance, because that's a whole other can of worms, but I won't. So if you like this episode, please make sure to download it in your streaming platform, because that really helps, and I'll drop a link to my Substack in the description. We have a chat where we talk about all things books, so join in on the fun. It's completely free. See you on the next one.